All right, so I'm calling the meeting to order at, actually now it's 7:01 on January 5th, 2021. First order of business is to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I have a flag here behind me, so I'll stand. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance to the flag of the
the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America,
America and to the republic
for which it
which stands
one
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Next order of business is roll call for tonight's meeting. Mr. Antel,
Present.
Mr. Bartko,
Here,
Mrs. Miller. She's here. Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Fenn
Here.
and Mr. Poliak.
Here.
So Mr. Poliak has been kind enough to host tonight's meeting for us. And that way I
Mr.
will
Mayor,
go ahead with the agenda. The next order of business is a motion to adopt the agenda as it is being presented to council. Everyone should have the latest version of that. So we have.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Roll call, Mrs. Klingenberg. You're
Yeah.
muted, Betty.
I am muted her. You're
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, he said, okay. Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
I've got one you did this resolution 1-4 at 1:30 this afternoon. I didn't see it until, are you going to explain it?
we haven't gotten there yet, Mr. Bartko.
Oh, you're asking me to approve the agenda. Well, this agenda is amended from 1:30 this afternoon.
Okay,
Yep. That's
I
exactly
wasn't on
true.
my computer. I didn't see the amended version.
that's up to you what you want to do.
If you girls gonna explain this, somebody,
If I
Explain-
may, Mr. Bartko,
yes,
I read the motion to adopt the agenda as presented to council. So this is the way it's being presented to you,
okay,
all right?
I
So
understand.
you may either accept it or not accept it. So that's what we're calling for right now. Mr. Antel has accepted it, Mrs. Davis has accepted it. Now, Mrs. Klingenberg has called on you. Do you accept it or deny it?
I'll deny it. Because
Okay,
nobody's,
so- All right, go on, Mrs.
they're gonna
Klingenberg.
explain. that
And
resolution.
Mrs. Miller? Mrs. Miller?
She's muted.
You're muted, Janet. You're still muted. Go to the bottom of
There.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fenn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And we've called everyone, Mr. Poliak. All right, so
Yes.
motion
Meeting.
passes. We've approved tonight's agenda to consider. Next, I will ask Mr. Poliak, do we have anyone who has chosen that they want to speak this evening?
Nope, it looks like we have 4 or 5 members of the public in attendance,
Okay,
and they are regular attenders, so, but I'll remind them again that if they want access to the public participation portion of the meeting, they need to use the Q&A and just write their names and addresses down, and they'll, Mayor, you'll be able to recognize them into the meeting. And
okay,
at this time, no one is requesting.
okay,
no one's
thank you,
requesting
Mr.
access.
Poliak.
Mhm.
All right. Next order of business on the agenda is the approval. We've approved the minutes. So now we need to move on to approve the minutes of the December 8th, 2020 meeting and the December 15th, 2020 meeting, which are doing all in one vote. So you have those minutes before you. Those were sent out a week or so ago. Does anyone have any corrections or changes to them?
If not, I'll make a motion to approve them.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. Do we have a second?
Knocking them.
Okay, Ron Fenn, I think is
Yes.
when I see the second. Okay. That's when I heard his box lit up. Was Jetta, did you speak? For some reason,
Janet, we still can't hear you.
I don't know why. Doesn't
She's
appear like she's
unmuted, but
muted.
is your volume up?
And is your, oh,
We still can't hear you.
yeah, okay. All right, maybe your earphones are down. Well,
Turned up on your computer?
okay. All right.
Can you
So
hear me
we
now?
have-
Ah, there we are.
Yes.
You now?
That was the headphones.
Okay.
Okay. So we have
I
a
needed
motion and
I
a
needed a
second.
headphone and a speaker.
Okay,
Can you
we
hear
have
me
a
now?
mo-
Is it loud enough?
Perfect.
Very.
Yes. So we have a motion and a second. Go ahead and do the roll call, Mrs. Klingenberg.
Okay, Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Okay, we've approved both the minutes from December 8th and the December 15th council meeting, 2020. All right, the next order of business tonight is we start with the resolution, as we always do. There's resolution 2021-1-1. And when I say we always do this, we do this when it is the opening or first meeting of the year. So this resolution is electing the president pro tempore of the Village of Boston Heights and declaring an emergency. And if you look at the agenda or the actual resolution, you will see that we have that choice of choosing who that's going to be, and we plug a name in there. Do we have any nominations?
I'd like to
I
nominate
nominate
Poliak.
Don Poliak. I'll second.
Okay. who
Okay, so we have a
nominated
nomination for
originally?
Don Poliak and a second by Janet Miller. Okay, do we have any other nominations?
I move the nominations be closed.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you,
wait a
Mr.
minute.
Fenn.
Could you
Do
start?
we have a,
There was too much interference, too many people talking at the same time. Who nominated Don Poliak?
I did.
Rod Antel,
Ronette, thank you. And who seconded?
Janet Miller.
Okay, now go ahead.
Thank you.
And okay.
Yeah, I move that the nominations be closed.
Thank you, Ron Fenn.
Mhm.
And Heather, are you seconding that?
I second that.
Thank you. Okay. So we're ready to go. Lindbergh, if you're ready to take the
Roll
call,
call.
we have Mr. Poliak is the elected person.
May I take the roll call?
Yes.
Thanks. Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Congratulations, Mr. Poliak. All right. Now, at this point, then we go back to the regular agenda of council meetings, and that means we do ordinances first. So an ordinance that we have that carried over from last year, is ordinance 2020-12-27. It's a third reading. It is an ordinance declaring the improvements to certain real property within the village to be a public purpose, describing the public improvements to be made to directly benefit such parcels, exempting such improvements from ad valorem real property taxation, requiring the owner of the improvements to make service payments in lieu of ad valorem real property taxes and establishing a municipal improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of the service payments in lieu of ad valorem property taxes. All pursuant to sections 570940, 570942, and 570943 of the revised code. Okay, this is the third reading, so I would ask for a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Poliak. Do we have any discussion?
I've been studying this and I talked to Stacy DeBrista, Eileen Shapiro's assistant, and she said to ask Marshall questions, but Marshall isn't here tonight, so I'll just go along.
Okay. Marshall did leave me the actual law writer, ORC parts of it that are there if anyone does have other questions. But are there any questions then at this point? If there are none, we have.
I have one question that I was going to ask Marshall.
Right.
At the meeting on December 8th, Marshall said that this ordinance has, he was asking what the downside of this ordinance would be. He says that it's a win-win situation for the village of Boston Heights. And I just wanted to ask him, what the downside from me studying all these things on this ordinance is that Summit County is not going to get any of the money from this TIF. And from my observation is that to do this TIF for 30 years, which is over and above the state law of 10 years, Hudson School District has to approve it, and the commissioners from Summit County have to approve it. Did they approve it?
Okay, I will attempt to answer that for you, Mr. Bartko, because first of all, on the 8th and on the next meeting after that, you had all kinds of questions and that. And Marshall at that time tried to explain to you that this applied to 5709.40, big section B.
Right.
Which you didn't seem to understand at that time, and it seems like you perhaps don't even.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask.
But anyway, so I
Understand.
have this highlighted. He gave me the thing, and I will read it
Okay.
so everyone can briefly understand here. The legislative authority of a municipal corporation by ordinance may declare improvements to certain parcels of real property located in the municipal corporation to be a public purpose.
Right.
Improvements with respect to a parcel that is used or to be used for residential purposes, which this is not. So as a result, any of the residential restrictions that apply do not apply to this, Bob.
Okay.
And I think Marshall tried to explain
Right.
it to you a month ago.
Right.
But
I
anyway,
understand that.
so that's why I'm reading this.
Okay.
So, and it may be declared for public purpose as residential if it was in a blighted area. And I know you brought that up
Right.
several times. This is not
A residential area.
correct. Okay. So, and the other question you just brought up is about the school district. The school district was given a letter, which I hand delivered to the superintendent of schools, Phil Herman, and
Right.
the treasurer of Hudson Schools.
Right.
And that was appropriate by what was declared by the Ohio Revised Code
Right.
and the state that said, we are doing this, we're declaring it this particular usage and the whole thing like that. And they're being made whole. In other words, we are not taking any tax dollars.
I understand.
From the
They get
Hudson
100%.
schools. So as a result, with that ruling, we were advised that we can go beyond the 10-year ruling as far as collecting that tax. We
But
can go,
don't-
the maximum is the 30-year ruling.
But don't the commissioners of Summit County also have to approve of this?
They do not.
Mr. Mayor, Summit County does not have commissioners.
Well, that's very true
That's
too.
what I got.
Well, it's,
But no commission, no. Summit County did not have to approve this because this
They're
is,
gonna lose. They're gonna lose a ton of money. I thought they had to approve this.
they
That's
do
from-
not, Bob. And that was explained to you on the December 8th meeting. That was explained to you at the December 15th meeting. And again, you're asking that same question. And I know you or someone made some calls to Summit County and to Columbus,
And they
and
do
we're told
nothing
the same
about this.
things. So
Nothing
we are
about it.
proceeding ahead with this evening because, you know, you don't want to understand what the ruling
I do
is.
understand. You're doing
That's
this
the ruling.
under the table. Summit County knows nothing about this, and they're gonna lose.
Excuse me, that is untrue. And I don't think that, for the record, I will stand by that. And I think you need to retract that statement because that is not true. This is not being done under the table. And I think that that's you're libeling yourself, Bob, by saying that. That's defamation.
I know.
It is not being done under the table. This has been on top of the table since the beginning of all of this discussion. And Summit County, we were told months ago, Bob, you need to listen. Bob, can you just stop? Thank you. Thank you.
I'm listening.
Summit, can you just stop for a second? I really respect you, Bob, but I really would like you to respect me. And if I have a statement to make, I would like you to listen to it, please.
Okay,
Okay. I think you'll really appreciate it because what I'm going to try to explain to you is that what you're upset about is not something that's true. Summit County is fully aware of this. This type of economic development tool has been used in other cities in the county. It is used all over the country. It is specifically to our benefit because we will be able to use those dollars that would have gone to Summit County to be used specifically for the Village of Boston Heights. All of the money that would be going to our public schools will still be going to our public schools. You know, in other economic development tools, you know, the schools have been hurt or income taxes have been changed with the developer or the company. None of that's happening in this. So it is, I mean, I'm sorry that if it sounds really cliche to say it's a win-win. I don't like cliches. It is a positive for the community. It is positive for Boston Heights. We're able to funnel those dollars that would have gone to Summit County to repair Summit County roads all over Summit County, just specifically to use those dollars for Boston Heights. And if we want to use those for areas that we feel need improvements, such as the park, or such as the roads around our house, or the roads around whatever development is coming in over there, we can specifically target those dollars for something that's within the Village of Boston Heights. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, or put me on a straighter path. But I would say to you, Bob, please, I urge you not to be saying that this was what lit me up was your inaccuracy and in throwing all of us under the table, basically, by saying this is done under the table, because there is nothing that is being done behind anybody's back. That's just not the way the Village of Boston Heights is operated. It's not the way we've ever operated. We've always tried to be really transparent and as transparent as legally possible. Now, maybe certain things are not made public because there are agreements between developers or even individual taxpayers. You know, I mean, Betty can't open up her office and say, oh, this is so-and-so, and this is what kind of taxes they pay, what kind of income taxes. There's confidentiality legalities that go across the board. And part of, I think, what's frustrating you, Mr. Barco, is that there is some type of confidentiality, a legal agreement that the name of the whoever is having this development done is not, we do not have the right to disclose that. But the whole thing is not being that, so if that is what you're getting at and that's what you're
No, that's not what I'm getting at.
thinking, that we're not being transparent, because it's but I just, sorry, I'm not sorry, but I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate the implication that any of this is being done under the table, because every person on this screen right now is an honorable and honest person, including yourself.
Right.
You're welcome to give me back your opinion, or whatever you're.
I have
I'm listening.
Well put, Janet.
Thank you, Janet. And the only one thing I want to say, everything you said was all above board, and it does benefit the Village of Boston Heights. However, it must be used around this project on
Okay.
roadways, sewers,
Right.
different things that.
All right, well, but however.
I mean, I
me-
can't necessarily take it to the park. However,
So,
because I can use it on roads that are around the project or on sewers there, money that I would be taking out of the general fund, I can take and use at the park. So
right.
it does benefit the Village of Boston Heights.
So it wouldn't be directly, but because we would have that money available to be used around that property, it frees up money in the general fund for us to be able to do other things, like build a trail at the park, so to speak.
Correct.
So it does actually have a ripple effect, if you will, of positivity. It has positive externalities to the village. So,
Thank you.
Well said.
Bob, I don't know if that allays any of your concerns. If you still have, I mean, if there's still something, you're more than welcome to come back and, rebut what I had to say.
I respect your opinion. I have my opinion. I have one question for you, Janet. I have one question for you. Did you get the newsletter today?
No, I didn't open it.
A resident called me and said he got a newsletter in the mail today, and nothing is said about this ordinance. Nothing. Nothing in the newsletter is said about this ordinance. Why is that? I mean, this is pretty important to Boston Heights.
I don't think the
I don't-
really address ordinance.
You sent out the newsletter, so why wasn't this mentioned?
The ordinance passed, Bob.
I'm not
Generally,
sure.
anything, if
I'm not sure what-
legislation-
Council's got to vote on it. It hasn't passed yet. Council's
I
got
can
to
argue with you. I can argue with you, Bob. You always have the right answer, you think, so.
Yep.
Well, it's not.
Mr. Mayor, I call the question. We have had enough discussion on this for multiple days. We've gone over every point in detail for everybody's satisfaction. So I think it's time to vote on it.
Except mine.
Thank
You're
you.
allowed, then you vote your conscience.
I am.
Good.
All right. Okay. Are there any other questions from any other council members on this ordinance? Seeing none, Mrs. Klingenberg, we have a motion and a
Yes.
second.
Yes. Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
No. I'm voting no.
Hey.
Okay. Right now I have to find my. Sorry, I'll be right with you.
You looking for the ordinance number, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I'm looking for my, oh. No, that's not it. Well, yeah, I have the ordinance number here. What I'm looking for is my, is my agenda sheet that has that particular item on it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it was ordinance 2020-12-27. We're taking the roll call, and it has passed and becomes ordinance 2020-12-27. Thank you very much, council. I will now move on to resolutions. Resolution 2021-1-2 is a resolution designating the members of the Boston Heights Council committees and the various commissions of the village effective January 2021 through December 2021 and declaring an emergency. We first need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule so we may consider this.
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. We have a second.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Barco. Roll
Mrs.
call.
Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Barco,
Yes,
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mr. Antel.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to suspend has passed. We'll now ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-1-2.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I'll
Antel.
second. And I'll
Thank you, Mrs.
second.
Miller. Okay, is there any discussion?
Just, Mr. Mayor, the discussion just needs to be in filling out section 1 on the finance committee. Now that,
If I can interject something, interrupt, and I apologize. This is actually all the names from the last year's. I did not delete all of them. I can just cross, whenever anybody makes any changes, I'll cross them off. It just seemed to be some duplicate work. So there it was, and nobody called the mayor and told them they wanted something else, so. there.
absolutely. It's just in, I
Section
think-
1, we don't
that's
have
all.
anyone
Section
filled
1.
in.
Yeah. that
Section
was-
1 needs filled in.
Right, it says needed. I stopped at that point, right.
So, Mr. Antel, would you, just as it's presented, accept the section 1 having Don Poliak, Ron Antal, and Ron Fenn, keeping it consistent and the same as what we had last year?
I accept that.
Right. That is the same as 2020 was. All right. So does anyone have any other questions or changes on resolution 2021-1-2? Okay, seeing none. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayor, just point of order. Do we need to vote on that amendment or no?
To add the 2 names
As amended.
as amended. Yes, we do.
I
So
deleted it by
first, the
mistake.
amendment we're voting on is on section 1, the finance committee for the year 2021 shall consist of the following council members. Don Poliak, Ron Fenn, and Ron Antel.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I deleted it by mistake.
Okay, so do we have let's first have a motion to approve that amendment.
It was presented and accepted. I moved and.
You moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Antel.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. All right. So we have a motion and a
Mr.
second.
Antel.
Go ahead and take the vote on that. Mrs. Klingenberg.
Yes.
She's muted again.
All right, hold on, I'll unmute her.
Betty, you're muted. Betty, you're muted.
Come back, Betty.
Hit me.
Okay,
Here she is.
Okay, now, the next, it's Don Poliak,
Yes.
Ron Antel,
Yes.
Ron Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
and Mr. Barco, I think.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. And then
Okay.
And
All
then,
right, so the resolution passes. So we now would move to the main motion
okay,
to approve Resolution 2021-1-2
okay,
as amended.
right. And that goes with Mr. Antel first.
Yes.
So, right, we have Mr. Antel made the motion, Mrs. Miller made the second.
And Mrs. Miller,
Yes,
You approve that?
Poliak,
yes, as amended.
Mr. Bartko? Mr. Bartko?
Oh, yes, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
It's all right, it's only the first of the year. Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
did I get everybody?
No, me,
Mr.
yes. Yes.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay. Motion passes, becomes Resolution 2021-1-2. The next resolution is Resolution 2021-3. We first need a motion to suspend the 3-reading rule.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes,
and Mrs. Miller.
Yes,
Thank you.
All right.
I'll make a motion
Motion
to
has
adopt.
Passed. We need a motion to adopt. Thank you, Mr. Poliak. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Fenn. Do we have any discussion?
The only discussion is, Mr. Mayor, when the administration has items, it would be great for you to also just cascade what those items are as courtesy to, so that council can understand and know if you do have any intent to sell any unneeded or obsolete or, any unfit property.
Right.
And you usually do, and so I just want to make sure we just do that in finance.
We always do that. However, in order to be able to have an auction, we need to pass an ordinance at the beginning of each year, and that's what this is.
Got it.
So are there other questions on this particular resolution? No? All right. We have a motion and a second. Mrs. Klingenberg?
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
yes,
Mr. Bartko,
yes,
and Mr. Antel.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, becomes Resolution 2021-1-3. All right, the final resolution of the evening is Resolution, and a typo here, it's 2021-1-4.
Whoops.
It's a resolution authorizing mayor to enter into a second amendment to the master agreement with Energy Harbor, formerly known as First Energy Solutions Corp., to provide services to an aggregated group. In order to discuss this, we first need a motion to suspend the 3-reading rule.
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3-reading rule.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Fenn.
Mr.
Roll
Antel,
call, Ms.
sorry, Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
yes,
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
yes,
and Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The motion to suspend the 3-reading rule has passed. We now ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-1-4.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Antel. Do we have-
second with some explanation or discussion. And I have a question. Was this the added item that Bob was questioning earlier that he was saying was added at the last minute?
That's correct.
Okay,
It is.
so I don't, this isn't, that the Energy Harbor, the aggregated group is not something new. This is it something new?
Change. There was a name change and actually it's the same aggregation people we've been working with for electric.
Okay,
And what they do is they go out and they survey all the possible sources they could buy electric, find the lowest price for us. And that's what the agreement is here, saying find the lowest price for the community for electric service. And as I said, First Energy Solutions, the name has, that has ended and it's now called Energy Harbor. Mrs. Klingenberg, do
Thank
you have
you.
anything to add to that?
As I explained in my email, closing and opening and getting everything ready, I came across this afternoon. That's why, Mr. Barco, you didn't get it until this afternoon. And that's why it's also in italics, so that you realize it was an add-on after you got your original agenda. That's all. I apologize, but never saw it because I was doing other things. That's all.
Okay. But this, as Mrs. Klingenberg is explaining to you, this is what we do every time that the contract changes. Here we have a name change, but basically we would go out as the populace of this village approved in, I think, the year 2003. I can't remember how far back it goes, that the council would search for the best price for electric aggregate, and we would have that presented to the public. They are under no obligation to take this price if they think they can find a better one. Okay, but if not, this price, this is the one that will go into, continue to be their electric billing company. Did I say that to everyone's understanding? Do you understand where we're going?
So
Okay,
so this resolution is just for the name change from First Energy Solutions Corporation to Energy Harbor.
right.
That's what,
And back when we originally passed this, Bob,
okay.
we said we want the council to find the lowest aggregate price for electric for the community. And that's what we do. So we have this company search for those low prices, and they set it up for a period of time, 1, 2, 3 years. They have it there. And as I said, if anyone in the public wants to research and change their company, they have that opportunity to do so. But what we've done is found the lowest price we could get and a good price for them. Okay? So do we have any other questions on this? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mr. Antel, second by Mrs. Miller. Roll call. Betty, you're muted again.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
yes,
Mr. Barco,
Yes,
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Resolution passes, becomes resolution 2021-1-4. Next, we will go on to the mayor's report. First order of business we have a member of our planning commission who is probably going to be moving out of the state. And I talked with him, and because his term was up on the planning commission, and I had someone else who had mentioned they'd like to be on the planning commission, and we appointed them last in December, Mark Pennington. Mark Pennington is going to take Mike Bush's seat on the planning commission. So hopefully all of you can see this. This is the proclamation that I'm going to read to Mike Bush, and I believe Mike Bush and the planning chair, John Codrea, are both on as attendees this evening. I sent them the connection to attend. So Mike Bush, when he's back in town or he wants me to mail it to him and he's staying wherever he is right now, that's fine. Let me go ahead with the proclamation. Whereas Mike Bush has dedicated over 16 years of service to the Village of Boston Heights as a member of the Village Planning Commission, starting his term on October 13th, 2004. And whereas Mike Bush has worked diligently to serve the community with dignity and served as a chairman of the Comprehensive Zoning Plan Committee, which is the basis of our village zoning today. And whereas Mike Bush has spent countless hours working with other members of the Planning Commission to raise the quality of life for the residents of the Village of Boston Heights by approving beneficial projects for the village. Therefore, on behalf of the citizens of the Village of Boston Heights, the Village Council, and I, the mayor, we take this opportunity to commend Mike Bush for his 16+ years of service as a Planning Commission member and his contributions to the comprehensive plan for the Village of Boston Heights. We wish to express our sincere gratitude and extend best wishes to Mike Bush in his retirement for a job well done. So thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate that. And as I said, give me a call when you get back into town or let me know where we can send this to you. But as I said, I don't know if all the council can see that or not, but in the other audience there, but that's the proclamation. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
It's a standing sitting ovation.
Yeah, COVID has made things a little
This
different.
is a Zoom, this is a Zoom ovation.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, next order of business I have is we received notice that the Ohio Capital Appropriations Budget awarded through Ohio Department of Natural Resource, ODNR, has awarded the Heights to Hudson Trail $250,000. Applied for by Brian, our engineer, and the Matthews Thomas Park Master Plan has received a grant for $200,000.
Nice.
So
Wow.
that's a very good for our community. Brian has applied for both of those. He will be explaining to you, I'm not sure if it's this evening or whenever, when we'll be moving forward, what the plans are, and he will be keeping us aware of this. So, and if Brian has anything to add in his report, that's great. But I just want to say congratulations to Brian and OHM for applying for these grants and getting us ODNR dollars. Okay. And also I want to thank, because he applied for this through our district representative, Bill Romer's office. And we're in District 38. I want to, and I personally did call Mr. Romer to thank him about his help in helping us achieve this award. So the next thing I have on the agenda is the Fairview Cemetery 2020 year-end report from Mr. Gerlach, our sexton. We had 4 burials, some of them cremations. One was a move from one cemetery to another of a cremation, and one was a full burial. We also had, it looks as if 7 lots were purchased in 2020. And there were footers poured, and I think, oh no, I'm sorry. There were 7 footers poured in 2020, but no lot and graves were purchased in 2020. Mr. Finn shaking his head, he understands that. So that report's here. Anyone who wants to see that. Finally, I want to report to you that in the last newsletter that went out, I put out that Valley Fire District had achieved some, a grant for some combination smoke and CD alarms. And we have a box of them here at the Village Hall and a sign-up sheet. What the newsletter had said and what I'm telling you right now is village residents who are interested are allowed to claim 2 of these for their residents. They have to have their show where they live and have proof of that, but they can come up to Village Hall. They can also go down to the Valley Fire Station to do that, but Valley Fire decided to have some available here, and they brought up a list for us to sign them up. So if anybody's interested, and these are, if you notice, it says 10, you're no worry. The battery lasts 10 years in this. And as it is, if you ask any fireman, a fire alarm is only good for 10 years. It's supposed to replace them in 10 years. So now they've designed some that the battery lasts as long as the alarm. When this goes bad and you test it and it doesn't work, you throw the whole unit away. So
you don't have to change the batteries every year?
no, this is a 10-year battery, Bob.
That's great.
Well, actually, they're selling these in the store now too, but it makes it a lot easier for you to remember that your fire alarm is current and up to date, and when it stops working, it's time to put a new one in there for your protection. All right, that's all that I have. I will go now to the fiscal officer report.
I have one thing that I wanted to talk about briefly. I want to have the new directory out for the next meeting. So if you have any changes, cell phone changes, hopefully no address changes, but cell phone, you want 2 numbers, make sure that you let me know as soon as possible, because I will have them ready for the next meeting. So anything at all, instead of waiting until you get them, and then I'm starting all over again.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Klingenberg. From that, we will move to committee reports. First committee reports, we have our Safety Committee, Valley Fire District. Mr. Rantel or members of the committee, anything to report?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. We can say, and I think Mr. Rantel has reported on this, we do have a car ordered for the police department. Not sure when that's going to be in. Do we know that, Mrs. Klingenberg?
No.
Okay.
No. There's no end date for that.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else to report for that committee, we have the roads committee and cemetery trustees.
Okay, on the roads, everything's moving along at normal. Got a lot of salt and the roads look pretty good. And on the cemetery, we're planning to take down all the decorations this Saturday, weather permitting. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
It looks
Well,
beautiful,
now-
by the way.
Pardon?
Cemetery.
Oh,
I said all
yeah.
the decorations were beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Lands and buildings, anything, Mrs. Miller?
I don't have anything new unless there've been any leaks sprung or in the lands and.
Well, we know
If
we
you
have
have
the
anything to
ongoing
report,
poor
Mayor.
development, but other than that, we don't have anything new that has come in the front door that I'm aware of. Okay. And that goes for the economic community development as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being a part of the discussion with the grants that Brian was able to secure for us in terms of lands and buildings, and community development sort of fits in there. So I'm looking forward to that. Congratulations to everybody, but that's very exciting. Thank you.
Okay,
That's all I
Yeah.
have. So Happy New Year.
okay. Planning Commission BZA,
No report at this time, and there's no meeting next month. We'll look for it in February.
right, this month there's no meeting. Okay, February 3rd, I think, is our next meeting.
Right.
Okay, the engineer. Have a report, Brian?
Yeah, so basically just to tie on what the mayor said. So right now for Heights to Hudson, we actually have $975,000, which 750,000 of that is grant, and then 125 is our local match. And then with the 200,000 for the Matthew Thomas Park Master Plan. So I know that Aaron Dominy, myself, Arthur, Matt Hills, and Jeremy from OHM, we're going to be next thing will be in discussion, especially with the trail, is to finish up the paperwork that we need to do. I have a message in to ODNR regarding the funding that we just received, so hopefully I'll hear back from them soon. But the next, we're moving forward with the next steps in finalizing the grant portions of these, and then the next step is we'll be probably presenting proposals to do the design, which this money is for especially for the trail. That will be that, and then also for the park, having discussions, which we've talked about. Initially was doing the pond first. So we'll reevaluate everything and have a meeting about that on with the money that we received, doing the design and doing the pond, which is what we've intended to do all along, was get that pond cleaned up and around there first. But with that money, we might be able to do a little bit more. So that's what we'll have to see. And then also, we're still waiting, but hopefully there'll be some more grant opportunities that weren't available last year that got shut down with some of the parks that we would apply for some of that funding. So hopefully those will be back and available in 2021. And then lastly, we should be getting, hopefully it's going to be sometime in February, our OPWC scoring for Brandywine phases 2 and 3. We're supposed to be getting that preliminary scoring in February. So we'll see how we did. I don't know if I'll know by the first council meeting, but maybe by the second for that. But I just also want to add that, Arthur was also a big help in me with these funding applications. And honestly, having the master plan is what enabled us to even apply. Our representative, Bill Romer's office, and his assistant's been a great help in notifying me when some of these are available, because sometimes it just goes right to them. So they're very, they let us know well ahead of time, hey, this is coming up in a couple months, so we can be prepared and fill out the applications. But, also, thank council for allowing us to have these master plans in place, because that's the only way we can get funding, is to show that some sort of plan that, that we're not just, willy-nilly trying to do something. So by having those, it's why we've gotten this money.
So, Brian, if I may ask you, I think what was talked about originally with Aaron and the whole group there, and was told to this council, I believe, is that we're going to start with the pond, because that we've had complaints that needs to be dredged and
Right.
cleaned, and we want to put, and hopefully there'll be some money out of that. We can start the trail process around the pond, walking
Right.
trail that we have proposed, and that was something that I think a lot of residents also had voiced an opinion that they would like to see
Right.
that going. So that's great. And of course, the Heights, the Hudson Trail, that's going to be very helpful in getting this part of, now we've got a good sized chunk of money, and we can get the design done on that, or completed. That's already started. We know we've talked with the Turnpike, because a lot of it comes up along the north side of the turnpike from the
Mhm.
bike and hike, the actual Metro Parks Bike and Hike Trail across Old 8, and then, down Dean Memorial to there, and we'll have to see with those dollars, how far that's gonna actually take us.
Right.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Any questions for Brian?
Good job, good job.
Yeah. Great
Thank you,
job.
Brian.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate that. Is there any old business?
No, I just want to, that's fine. We'll talk about it in finance.
Okay, thank you. Is there any new business? I know of no reason for an executive session, and so I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Miller, seconded by Mr. Antel. All those in favor, let's just raise our hands and Betty can take a look at that. And Betty, you don't have your hand up. Oh, you don't get a vote. I don't get a vote either. Okay. But
Right.
all of the council members are voting for adjournment, so
Okay.
great.
And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Yes.
Be safe.
7:58.
That's good timing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
You too.
See you in 3 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
You're back being the host.
Thank you, Don.
I don't know if I'm leaving. Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye.
See you, Janet.
I think I am.
All right.